Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of X-Men 97. It was called Tolerance is Extinction Part 1. And as it starts, Scott and Jean talk about how Cable wound up in the future by himself because he was separated from Bishop in the time stream, as well as about how the future they sent him to for a better life was apparently so bad that he came back to stop it. Cable then explains to the team about how the Prime Sentinels came to be, as well as that he tried to stop the attack on Genosha many times but kept getting pulled away by time itself because it's a fixed point. The team then see a report on the news about how Charles Xavier was supposed to take on a role as one of the Space Empire rulers, and about how his not being dead has angered some folks who feel they were lied to about his death in order that they might be engendered to have sympathy for mutants. Meanwhile, Roberto and Jubilee get their feathers ruffled at a dinner by Roberto's mother, who once again had some not great things to say about mutant kind. And if you listen really carefully during this scene, you hear the voice of Ian McKellen, who of course played Magneto in the X-Men films, voicing the old man character that speaks during this scene, which I thought was really cool. Meanwhile, Dr. Cooper, who is acting as a sort of UN watchdog over what Bastion and Sinister are doing, tries to talk to Eric, but he ignores her. Apparently, after the fight with the Prime Sentinel from last week, Rogue is unconscious and Jean is trying to help her come around. In the process, Jean ends up having a conversation with Nightcrawler about how odd it is that she has memories of carrying Nathan before his birth and of holding him when he was first born, even though she didn't give birth to him, or hold him when he was first born. Nightcrawler then explains to her that the fact that he's not her blood doesn't really matter because relationships are a choice, whether there's blood or not. We also see that Dr. Gyrich didn't die in the fight with the X-Men, and he's been kept in Hank's lab. And Hank is trying to figure out how many like him are out there. Scott, Jean, and Cable are on Bastion's trail, and they wind up at his childhood home in Pennsylvania, where they run into his mother. They learn that when he was a child and went by the name Sebastian, he could hear machines because of how his father was infected by Sentinel technology from the future and became Nimrod before fathering him. We see that Bastion is in league with Dr. Doom and Baron Zemo to eliminate mutants under a plan called Operation Zero Tolerance, which is why last week the team kept seeing OZT on different uniforms and whatnot. We also see that they're working to convert human volunteers into sleeper Prime Sentinels. And it turns out that one of them is Hank's reporter friend, and she attacks him when he tries to warn the team after finding out that there is a very large number of these Sentinels across the Earth. She then confronts the X-Men and a fight ensues. Bastion's mother also turns into a Prime Sentinel and attacks Scott, Jean, and Nathan, as do all of the people, quote-unquote people, in the neighborhood who have now all become Prime Sentinels. A different mob of them, in fact, advances on the X-Mansion and are fought by Wolverine and Nightcrawler, but their number starts to get overwhelming. Rogue and Sunspot also find themselves under attack, and when they wind up at Sunspot's home, where the human Sentinels catch up with them, Sunspot's mother tells them to stand down, and they're both taken prisoner. Scott, Jean, and Nathan are then forced to abandon the Blackbird midair, jumping out inside a sports car, which is then chased by a huge number of these Prime Sentinels, forcing them into a cave that they end up escaping by way of Jean controlling the car, while Cable shoots behind the car at the human Sentinels, and Scott uses his blaster to dig them a road out. Dr. Cooper, who again is monitoring Bastion on behalf of the UN, abhorred by what Bastion is doing, releases Eric, at which point he goes to the North Pole and sends out a global EMP, which shuts down all the Prime Sentinels and catches the attention of Omega Red, Silver Samurai, and Spider-Man. Before the episode ends, at the site of the now burnt down and crumbling X-Mansion, Professor X shows up in a crashing space pod and says that he hopes he's not too late before calling his X-Men to him. And that's where the episode ended. So I really liked this episode. The action sequences were unbelievable. The fight at the mansion with Wolverine and Nightcrawler was just incredibly animated. Really, all the action sequences were great. The fight between Scott, Jean, Nathan, and the Sentinels was crazy well animated. Even the Sunspot and Jubilee scenes were just crazy well animated, very cinematic, and just really, really well done. I also really liked the scene with Jean and Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's such a cool character, such a heartfelt character, and it's just really great when they let him shine for a moment or two in these episodes. There were the crazy cameos in the episode: Spider-Man, Doctor Doom, Silver Samurai, Omega Red, and of course the voice of Ian McKellen. And the episode creeped me out, which it's supposed to, when it's revealed that frickin' everybody is a Prime Sentinel, including the reporter lady, Sunspot's mother's butler, and just the whole of the public at large seems to be all made up of Prime Sentinels, people that were converted as volunteers. They didn't quite know what they were being converted into and didn't know they were anything at all until the moment came and they were activated, because when they were converted, Bastion made it so they would forget having volunteered in the first place. So it was just creepy as hell watching this episode unfold, and all these sleeper sentinels suddenly wake up when all our heroes are suddenly overwhelmed by these numbers and have to fight for their lives. It was just crazy. And then in the end, it was just like jaw-dropping to see the mansion in ruins after the other jaw-dropping moment of Magneto going to the North Pole and letting off a massive EMP that just shut all the sentinels down around the world. And of course, then Professor X shows up. So just a really cool episode. It would have been nice to see Storm. We haven't seen much of her at all this season. I thought once she got her powers back, she'd rejoin the fold, but that hasn't happened. So maybe in the last 2 episodes, we'll get to see her. I'm thinking we will. What I want to know is, are they going to leave Remy dead? That would really suck. I would not like that. I would like them to bring him back, even though that's cheesy, go back in time or whatever. But I would like to see that. I'm looking forward to the next episode. It's a 3-part conclusion of the season. So the stakes are so high now because, Wolverine says that Magneto's declared war on humanity, which I don't think he has. He's declared war on the people who made the Prime Sentinels, and that's not humanity. So I don't know if he's right about that. Although he doesn't say humanity, he just says declared war. Hopefully he means on the bad guys, because I'd hate to see Eric turn bad again. Although seeing him go all no holds barred and kicking ass wouldn't suck. I just like redemption arcs, and I'd prefer him to stay a good guy. But anyway, I'm getting out of here. I'll be back to do a breakdown and review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life, bub.